Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special broadcast of Beach Talk Radio. We are broadcasting this special interview with Congressman Steube of Florida. He represents the 17th District in his third term. And in addition to doing that, he's a great American hero, having served in Iraq for several years. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So the reason we wanted to have you on is because of this legislation that passed the House of Representatives. The Tax Relief for American Families and Workers Act, along with the Federal Disaster Tax Relief Act. Can you kind of give us a rundown of exactly what that is?
Yeah, well, the big thing for Floridians and people in Southwest Florida is the piece of my bill, the disaster relief for people that had expenses as it relates to Hurricane Ian. That's the biggest piece of it for us. But there's also other things. It increases the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act under Trump. Trump had the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act for expenditures of capital improvements to businesses. It is a great bill for small businesses. It's a great bill for families. It increases Trump's child tax credit, which was part of his original TCJA that was passed right before I got elected to Congress. But the biggest thing and the most impactful thing that affects every single American in my district is the disaster relief part of it, which allows any American that was affected by a natural disaster since 2020 to be able to deduct those expenses on their taxes.
You don't even need telling you represent Florida, but on Fort Myers Beach, they're still demoing buildings. People are not back in their houses. It was like a bomb dropped on that area. Why do you think it's taken this long for this legislation to get this far?
Well, I filed it a year ago. I've been working it for a year. I've been trying to get the committee to move it forward. We got a committee agenda just on this bill. I believe it was in October. And then in October, it passed. The committee was ready for the floor. I had a commitment from then Speaker McCarthy to hear it on the floor. And then unfortunately, the next day, he gets vacated out of the chair. So 3 weeks later, we have a speaker in place who didn't have a commitment to me to bring the bill up. And obviously, it took more time. He had different priorities, and it took more time to get it through. They also wanted to make it part of this tax package. So instead of passing it as a standalone bill, which was what my hope was, because here's the reality of where we're at. If you extended your taxes in Ian, and then Idalia hit us, and you were able to extend your taxes to February 15th, which is in like 2 weeks.
Right.
Obviously, this bill is not going to pass the Senate and go to the White House and be signed in the next 13 days in the next 13 days. So what's going to end up happening is people are going to have to file their taxes, pay the additional amount, and then have to file an amended return for their 2022 taxes when this bill does become law. So make sure anybody watching this or listening, if you had expenses as it relates to Hurricane Ian, make sure you file an amended return for 2022 when this bill becomes law and is signed by the president. For some people, it's thousands of dollars. I've talked to some families, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you'll get back on your taxes.
So is it best for people to get with their accountant right away?
Yeah.
Or is there, so get with your accountant and make sure that you understand exactly how this is going to help you out.
Yeah, I mean, you're welcome to call our office to get specifics about the bill, but you're going to have to get whoever your tax preparer, whoever your tax professional is, whether it's a CPA or you go to H&R Block or whatever it is, and make sure that they're aware that when this bill passes, which I would think would be in the next 30 days, you can file an amended return for 2022 and get a lot of that money back. I mean, it's thousands of dollars for families. And we didn't here up in northern Sarasota, I didn't have near as much damage as they did in Lee County and in Charlotte County. For those families, it could be tens of thousands of dollars that you're going to be able to save and get back from the IRS for this.
So does this need to go to the Senate to be reconciled in any way? Or, I mean, can you take us through the process, and is Biden actually going to sign it?
Yeah, so it's a bipartisan bill. It passed like 350 to 70. It passed the House Wednesday night. It'll go to the Senate. It's now in the Senate. Unfortunately, Chuck Schumer and Mitch McConnell are too busy negotiating between Ukraine and whatever it is that they're focusing on right now. I had a conversation with Senator Scott a couple of days ago just to see what the lay of the land is over there and if they could get it up quickly. And the way that the Senate operates, I guess the next week or two is going to be focused on whatever deal it is that McConnell and Schumer are trying to work on a border/Ukraine deal. And so it will probably be a couple weeks before they'll be able to consider a tax package on the floor. I think it's going to be in the next 30 to 45 days. It's bipartisanly supported. The chairman of the Senate, who's a Democrat, worked with the Republican chairman in the House to get this package passed. And there's no reason why Biden wouldn't sign it.
Okay. Well, he did make a visit to Southwest Florida back in the day and said he was going to help out, but he says a lot of things that don't actually come true. So hopefully that'll get passed. So it sounds like people are going to have to file their taxes and then wait for this to pass and then get with their accountant and then either file an amendment or it goes back retroactive to when?
Yeah. So it'll go back to that tax year. So
Okay.
once this becomes law, which I don't think it's certainly not going to be 6 months from now. But once it becomes law, amend your 2022 taxes to include the expenses that you had as it relates to Hurricane Ian. And even if it was your deductible on your property insurance, that still could be deducted as an expense. So
Okay.
start looking at your receipts, start looking at what you spent to fix whatever it is that you needed to fix on your house or your property, and you'll be able to deduct that. Make sure you get with whoever prepares your taxes to be able to take advantage of this. This is millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars to Southwest Florida.
Heidi's question is, what if you got insurance money? Does that affect this?
It would, in the sense that what you paid for your deductible is an expense that is out of pocket for you. So most people have a $10,000 hurricane deductible on their insurance policies. So that $10,000 deductible that you paid towards the insurance policy, you would be able to deduct that based on the percent of what your taxable rate is. So if, say, you have $10,000 and your deductible and you're in the 33% tax bracket, that's going to be $3,300 that's going to come off your taxes for that tax year.
And if you got FEMA money, does that have any impact on this?
No, it does not.
Okay, great. Speaking of FEMA, what is your grade on how you think FEMA performed through this storm here in Florida?
Well, in my district, they set up shop pretty quickly. We actually were assisting people in my district by opening up cases for them with FEMA and expeditedly working them. We had challenges with them getting things up. There's all sorts of the bureaucracy that is the federal government. Obviously, being a Republican and having a Democratic administration, there was a lot of challenges there. And Charlotte County is a great example. A lot of Charlotte County is actually in a flood zone. Well, FEMA rules are they can't put a FEMA trailer in a flood zone. So you had a whole bunch of FEMA trailers sitting out off the interstate. Many people probably saw them as they were driving back and forth on the interstate, just sitting there not being able to be used because most of Charlotte County is in a flood zone. So there's some things like that were very frustrating for me because you had families that could have utilized those FEMA trailers. But we were able to work a lot of cases. It was at least hundreds, if not thousands of cases directly with FEMA on behalf of the constituents in our district.
Yeah, it was exactly the same way on Fort Myers Beach. FEMA was telling them, yes, you can have a trailer. Yes, you can have a trailer. And then the next guy comes in and says, well, you're in a flood zone. You can't have a trailer. So they weren't even communicating with each other. And one of the things that Chauncey Goss said down here was that they had a lot of boots on the ground, but they didn't have enough brains on the ground, especially in Sanibel and Fort Myers Beach, because there were a lot of people there, but they do seem to change out and switch a lot. So a lot of people were frustrated with FEMA on Fort Myers Beach. What is your opinion on how the insurance companies are doing? I mean, it's nothing but an insurance nightmare in Florida for people on Fort Myers Beach. And how does that get fixed?
It's not just Fort Myers Beach. It is the entire state of Florida. We have a complete catastrophe as it relates to property insurance. I have talked about it time and time again. Unfortunately, this is a 100% state issue. So I would encourage everybody watching this, everybody listening to this, to contact your state representative and your state senator, because they are in Tallahassee right now in their 60-day legislative session. And they are the ones that have to fix the tax or the insurance problem here in the state of Florida. I talked to a gentleman who lives in Naples it was last week, and he told me he's going to have to either sell his house or the note's going to get called on his house because he can't find insurance for his house. And that is a very similar problem that I'm hearing from everyone. The cap for Citizens is $750K market value. Well, you go on the coastline in Fort Myers Beach, you go to the coastline in Sanibel or in Sarasota or in Charlotte County, you're not going to find a home that's less than $750K. So Citizens isn't going to be able to write policies there. And the private insurance aren't writing insurance policies in the state, so we're stuck. There's a lot of ideas that I have that I think the state should be doing. But I would encourage anybody affected by that absolutely should be reaching out every single day to your state official and asking them what they're doing to affect that change, because they're in Tallahassee right now for their legislative session.
What a little bit off topic, but what in the world is going on with the border?
Well, the border is a complete catastrophe. Mayorkas impeachment got past the House committee last week. I expect to vote on that next week. We're up there Monday to Wednesday next week, but that's not going to change the day-to-day of what's happening on the border. When Joe Biden got elected, he did away with, by executive order, all of the policies that Trump had put in place for the border. The Remain in Mexico policy for asylum, the catch and release, he got rid of that. All of these different things that they reinstituted or got rid of that has contributed to this problem. So this argument from the White House and from Democrats right now that, oh, if they just had more money, the problem would be solved, is a complete and outright lie. Joe Biden could solve it right now, today, in the White House by instituting the policies that he got rid of when he got elected after Trump, and it would completely solve the crisis that we're seeing on the southern border right now. Record amounts of fentanyl have been seized, enough to kill every person on the planet. We have over 10 million illegals that have come in, over 300 people on the known terrorist watch list. I think it's like 23,000 Chinese Communist Party individuals, 40-something thousand Russians, Afghans, Iranians, Turkey. I mean, you name it. They're all of our enemies are coming through the southern border because it's wide open right now, and it could be changed today and solved today if the White House took action.
Are you okay with 5,000 a day? It seems like they're negotiating to have 5,000 a day when the law pretty much says you can shut the border now.
No, they need to, all they have to do today is enforce federal law. That's all they have to do, and they're not doing it. And it goes so far as when I was on the Judiciary Committee a year and a half ago, Mayorkas was in there, and we were asking him, of these, at the time it was like 90,000 people who had gone through the asylum process. The court, the asylum judge, had determined that they didn't have an asylum case. A judge had ordered them back to their home country, and Mayorkas has refused to deport these people. So we have people in our country that have gone through the asylum process that this administration is refusing to deport. It is an active, intentional, deliberate act on behalf of this administration to allow these people into our country. It could stop today. And the House, if you want to say that the House, the Republican House, isn't doing anything, we passed a Secure the Border Act in May of last year that is sitting in the Senate that Chuck Schumer is not going to touch.
And lastly, off the subject, while I have you here, 3 Americans were killed recently in Jordan, and we haven't done anything. I mean, are we going to do anything?
That's a great question again for Joe Biden. I served in Iraq. I served in the Army, and to see what is happening at the highest levels of our military is not just discouraging, but appalling. We have attacks of our service member, over 100, I think it's over 160 attacks of our service members in the last several months. It's now over 100. 100 have been injured, and now 3 have been killed. And we know where this is coming from. It's all Iranian-backed Shia militia groups, the Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, and you have a White House that is refusing to do anything about it. I mean, they're still being reported, oh, he's decided what action he's going to take. Meanwhile, drones are being flown up and attacking our service members. It's a disgrace. I'm surprised people want to serve in our military under this administration, given the fact that our commander-in-chief and the higher-ups in our military aren't willing to protect and defend the people that protect and defend us every day.
Again, back to the let you go after this. The Tax Relief Act that you worked so hard on is passed. Any final piece of advice on that for the residents that follow us that were waiting for this for a long time, and how it's going to help them and what they should do?
Please, please, please contact your tax professional. If you've already filed your 2022 taxes, which the deadline, if you extend it again, is February 15th, so you're probably going to have to file it before this becomes law. Make sure you file an amended return and you follow this bill to see when it gets signed by the president. As soon as it passes the Senate and signed by the president, you will be able to file an amended return to your 2022 taxes and expense any expenditure that you had related to Hurricane Ian. It's going to be millions upon millions of dollars to Southwest Florida because all of us were affected by Hurricane Ian.
Congressman, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. Thanks for working on this and getting it passed. And you have a great weekend. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot, sir. Congressman Greg Steube from Sarasota, Charlotte, and portions of Lee County. And he was very instrumental in approving the Federal Disaster Tax Relief Act And we're going to make sure that we share this video today in our newsletter and make sure that everybody knows what to do. It sounds like you need to get in touch with your accountant so that you can get the money that you deserve from this, because Ian is finally going to be, when the president signs it, finally going to be a qualified disaster, which is what everybody has been waiting for, so they can use this on their taxes. So thank you all for tuning in. And tomorrow, tomorrow we're going to be doing our walk around, starting at the Sandpiper, of course. So we want to see how that demolition is going. And then our 11 o'clock show will be live from Margaritaville. Thank you all for tuning in, and you have a great weekend. Bye-bye.